Welcome to Mainland, your local regional television station. I'm Tanya Omar, and some of the stories coming up in our Nelson Tasman Regional News Roundup. Police search for missing West Coast man, local zoo gains accreditation, New Zealand filmmaker in Nelson, heat is on for smoke-free Rockquest in Nelson, and more. Smoke-free Rockquest is now in its 27th year as New Zealand's only nationwide live original music youth event. The series, with over 30 events, provides young musicians with the opportunity to perform live in a professional setting. Last weekend's regional smoke-free Rockquest heats in Nelson's Theatre Royal certainly showcased the best talent that the region's high schools could muster in front of a packed-out crowd of young supporters, families and interested parties. A smoke-free Rockquest story from the regional heats, blind Blenheim teenager Cam Dawson may be the next big smoke-free Rockquest success story after taking out the Nelson Regional Solo Duo title at the Theatre Royal on Saturday night. He is currently boarding at Garran College this year to focus on his music and is working hard to better his second placing in the 2014 Solo Duo section of the National Smoke-Free Rockquest. Tegan Fisher from Waimea College plays second. Both soloists will now submit 15 minutes of original material for selection as national finalists.
In second place in the solo duo category for the Nelson region, winning $100 worth of gear from the Rock Shop and a chance to be selected as a national finalist, tonight goes to, from Waimea College, Tegan!
Don't want to feel desire between us. It's too late when we're all slaves to lust. I don't care what you wear, if I can wear it too.
And ladies and gentlemen, in first place in the solo duo category for the Nelson region, winning $200 worth of gear from the Rock Shop and a chance to be selected as a national finalist, tonight goes to, from Garran College, Cam Dawson!
Doing what you're told, the road is long when there's no one there. Lonely, lonely, lonely heart, it's tearing you apart. To speak you do not dare. Oh, don't you say you've ever seen the depths of every ocean. Don't you say you've ever walked the edge of every line. This time I'm breaking all my rules, I'm taking all my chances, love, I'm sorry I broke your trust. This time it's giving and it's taking, I took so much, I'm sorry, I just forgot how to love, I forgot how to love.
For decades, Nelson has been known for its sunshine wages. and some local employers have operated within that sunshine state of remuneration quite nicely. In Nelson this week we had Annie Newman from the Living Wage Movement Aotearoa in town to talk to employers, council and anyone else wanting to see positive changes happen for the low paid workers of the Nelson Tasman region. Chrissy Small spoke to Annie in our studio this week.
Annie, it's really great to have you here. Where have you come from today?
Right, well I'm down from Auckland, but I'm part of an organisation which is a national organisation called the Living Wage Movement Aotearoa New Zealand.
Right, and so of course you're here because you'll be talking to people about the living wage.
Yeah, that's right. Well, there's a lot of interest here in Nelson amongst the communities. So we're talking about faith-based groups, community organisations and unions, and they're interested in seeing a bit of a movement emerge in Nelson where we start to talk more about the standards that workers should have when they go out to do a job, you know, that they should be being paid a living wage and not what some of the poverty rates are that are around at the moment, where people are earning the minimum wage of something like $15.25 or just above, and often doing really hard work. So that's what this is about.
Okay, now Annie, Nelson's known for years, it's always been the sunshine capital of New Zealand, but you work here for sunshine wages. Is that of concern?
That's an enormous concern because really it has an impact on the whole economy. So Nelson's communities suffer. It's the community that pays the price of low wages, and in the end if you have poor health outcomes, very poor housing, people who can't afford proper heating, poor education outcomes, greater levels of insecurity both in the community and in work, then in the end the community pays the price of that. So it's important for everybody that we set new standards that mean that workers earn enough money to survive and properly participate in society.
Right. Now, okay, there's a lot of information in the news now about homeless people living in cars and everything, but that boils down to a living wage too, doesn't it? It
does. A big part of that story is that people aren't earning enough money to be able to afford the electricity they need or the insulation that they need. We do have skyrocketing rentals, and that's everywhere. And of course the living wage is designed to take into account the real costs of living. So the calculation is based on what it costs for a person to live a basic yet decent life. And we know that that's $19.80, it's not $15.25, which is what the minimum wage is.
Right. And of course with house prices going up, that pushes the rents up. It's a catch-22 situation. The wages aren't meeting those extra costs of living, are they?
Yeah, it's a complicated picture, and I think we have to start somewhere. And we know because Wellington City Council introduced a living wage, or has agreed that that's what they're going to do, that this is possible. And we hope that the Nelson City Council will eventually come on board, and that other businesses here who can really afford to do it step up and recognise that workers shouldn't just be paid what they can get in the market, which isn't enough, but they should be paid what they need in order to survive and live a decent life.
Right. What are the stories that you're hearing coming out of our region as far as living wages go?
Well, I was just talking to a home care worker yesterday, and she was on $15.75. She's on her own. She needs much more than that to survive. She needs more than that to pay her rent. And you can't get out and have a decent break, and people are very time poor when they're on low wages because they tend to put all the time that they can into survival, and when they have time off they can't actually get out of town and they can't do anything, which is about really enjoying the wonderful leisure opportunities that a city like Nelson has to offer. So this is important. It's important for tourism, it's important for domestic tourism, important for small businesses in Nelson, that people can get out and spend their dollars and make sure that we have flourishing communities.
What about the small business that's struggling away there, and they may have one or two staff, but they really can't afford to be looking at increasing anyone's wages? How can they actually step up?
Well, this is voluntary. So the living wage movement's not about making anything mandatory. What we do is we target employers who can afford to pay. We target the local government and central government. They're taking in taxpayers' money or ratepayers' money, and they're trying to create prosperous communities. So we think that they should be doing it. But where the small businesses are concerned, we don't put anybody under pressure. In fact, we are approached by small ethical businesses businesses saying, we want to do this. You know, they might be organic, or they might be buying fair trade, and they turn around to us and they say, we actually want to pay people decent wages. And so we've got restaurants and small manufacturing outlets, all sorts of groups who are stepping up and doing it and showing other New Zealanders that it is possible.
What are the bigger businesses out there that could be doing this or are doing this?
Well, you know, Nelson is famous for its fishing industry, for its winemaking. These businesses tend to be quite large, productive businesses, and they do very well. There's no reason why they shouldn't be looking at how they redistribute money so that their workers are earning enough money so that they're in a position where they can buy the very products that they're producing. That's the sort of thing that we should be looking at. And I think Nelson could step up and really set a standard for the rest of the country around
Right,
this.
so these are some of the bigger companies around this region who are obviously turning in the profits because, you know, the people at the top seem to be doing very well.
The people at the top are doing well, and often we're told that this is not something that they can afford to do. But then you discover that if you look at the executive salary increases from last week, they went up in the last year by 12%. That's a very big increase. Workers were lucky to get 1 to 2%, and then that often takes them to a point where they get a pay increase when the minimum wage goes up because they're not even on that amount. So, you know, this is about redistribution. It's not about trying to find more money out of the public or putting the costs up and increasing inflation. That shouldn't have to happen.
Do you think basically, you know, without the workers there would be no industry?
Well, of course that is the case.
So you know, that's a forgotten, isn't it? That's forgotten about, really, from the people at the top.
I think that the contribution that workers make is forgotten, and they're seen as just sort of like widgets in the process. In fact, behind every worker there's a family that's struggling to survive, to get by, and to be contributing to their communities, and we need to be supporting that by paying them properly to do that.
What about if companies said, well, if our CEO is going to get a 12% increase, so is everyone?
Well, wouldn't that be lovely? I mean, I think that across New Zealand, that's simply not what's happening. So, you know, the living wage goes up every year by the average wage increase, and that sits at around 2 to 3%. Many workers don't even get that. But of course, at the top, you're getting 12% increases, and that's completely out of kilter. And there's a kind of greed in that, which I think most New Zealanders find pretty unacceptable. People should be getting increases. They should be able to have incomes that meet the increasing costs of living, but to be having incomes that are 3, 4, 5% above that really is excessive and unfair.
Annie, it's been really great talking to you. Let's hope the council come along to the meeting that you're having, the talk tonight, and some of these business groups.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see them actually want to make a change.
Yeah, that's right. Let's get the conversation going here in Nelson.
Yeah.
Natureland has been given a big thumbs up from zoo auditors who were particularly impressed with the exceptional standout quality of the pygmy marmosets enclosure. These pygmy marmosets are the smallest monkeys in the world. The auditors are from the Zoo and Aquarium Association, who are the peak body representing the zoo and aquarium community throughout Australasia with 99 member organisations. We caught up with Natureland curator Meg Rutledge about their recent accreditation. So Meg, what is this accreditation that Natureland's been awarded?
So it's the result of a process through the Zoo and Aquarium Association, which is the regional membership body for zoos, aquariums, wildlife sanctuaries all throughout Australia and New Zealand, including Papua New Guinea. And the process basically involves an audit of the decisions and practices and processes we have for our animal care on site at Natureland.
And so what does this mean for Natureland, this accreditation?
For us, it's just a wonderful achievement. Our trust has only been operating since November 2013, so the audit was in October 2015, so just shy of 2 years, and the formal accreditation has just come through. So for us, we're really proud. It's the first external audit of this nature for Natureland in its history.
And what does it mean for the animals here?
It means that rather than simply settling for neutral welfare, which is a term we would use, or minimizing any kind of negative welfare, hunger, thirst, pain, fear, that actually this audit recognizes that we strive for positive welfare, which means that the animals have every opportunity for a full range of natural behaviors, health, nutrition, their mental states, as well as their physical states.
So, to sum it up, you could say they could thrive in an environment. So, what would you say to hardcore people who say they don't want animals in an enclosed area? How do animals thrive?
A lot of that has to do with really having a strong knowledge foundation of what is species appropriate. So for a social species, they should have the opportunities to interact with the appropriate members of their species. And sometimes that is based on gender, sometimes that's based on age. Primates, for example, some primates, the females stay together for their entire lifespan. So example, at Natureland, we have capuchins, and the capuchins that we have in the wild, the females stay together their entire life, and the males come and go. So we actually have our female group. The females are all related across 3 generations, just like what they would have in the wild in South America. And we have an unrelated dominant male, and then 2 offspring young male. And then the youngest offspring male, who's just reaching maturity, will be sent off to now have his own family group at another zoo, so that we just continue those natural behaviors.
For locals, will this mean a fee rise?
No, we're very happy to say that we felt this was an incredibly important accreditation to earn, and so Natureland covered the costs of that and the process. We just think it's a very valuable use of our resources to ensure that the public knows that when they come here and do pay the entry fee, they're supporting a charity, but they're supporting a charity that feels very strongly about animal welfare.
So what other benefits is this accreditation going to have for, well, Nelson and Natureland, around education?
The accreditation process itself doesn't focus on education as one of its core requirements. However, Natureland definitely feels that part of the selection process of which animals we hold and which ones we don't, not only are we choosing ones we feel we can provide best welfare to, but we're choosing ones that we feel are relevant to what we can offer people who are coming here to learn about the animals.
West Coast Police are still seeking any information about West Coast man Willem Hendrik van Vuren, aged 54, and continue to appeal to the public for sightings of him and his vehicle, a silver Mazda Tribute 2001, registration number FSC 702. He has been listed as missing since Thursday the 12th of May, with his last known location as Westport. Police hold grave concerns for his safety. His vehicle could well be travelling or may have been discarded in a remote area. Anyone with information on his whereabouts or sightings of this vehicle, please contact the Tasman District Command Centre on 03 5463 895. Notes to Eternity is a film that anyone with an interest in the ongoing Israel and Palestinian situation should go and see. This documentary, screening Wednesdays in Nelson, showed to a sold-out house this week when Kiwi director Sarah Cordery made a guest appearance for a question and answer session. The film is described as a meditation on the Israel-Palestine conflict that centres on the lives and ideas of 4 renowned critics of Israeli policy. Filmed over a number of years in multiple locations, Notes to Eternity becomes an exploration of the very act of representing injustice suffered by another. I caught up with Sarah at the opening screening of her film on Wednesday evening this week. How would you describe the style of your documentary?
Well, it's described as an impressionistic meditation on the Israel-Palestine conflict through the life and work of these 4 characters. And I think, just generally about making documentary, I feel that we've become enamoured of certain styles of documentary, and I wanted to explore that a bit further and take it in a different direction. There's these nicely packaged kind of expositional documentaries, and on the one hand, and also human interest stories on the other. And I think my film attempts to do several different things.
How long did it take?
The shooting took place over 10 years and the editing over 3 to 4, but of course not all of that time. It wasn't continuous time. But yeah, it's a very long film in the making.
Why did it take 10 years?
For a variety of reasons, but I was filming this, actually 15 shoots went into this film, and 14 of those were overseas, travelling at various times with several of the characters to the Middle East, going to America, going to Europe, going to Australia. There was one shoot in New Zealand, and just coordinating these things, having enough money to use good cameras and fly and accommodate people. It's an expensive business, yeah.
So there were 4 key people in the movie. Who were they and why those 4?
The 4 people in the film are Noam Chomsky, Robert Fisk, both of whom a lot of people will have heard of. Robert Fisk through his book, The Great War for Civilization, which he brought out here for writers and readers a week a number of years ago. And Sarah Roy and Norman Finkelstein, who are both Jewish American intellectuals, who are also the children of Holocaust survivors, and that's part of their story in the film.
And why those 4 characters when you took on this documentary?
Well, as I said, I started with a cast of thousands, and over time I narrowed it down to these 4. They had such extraordinary stories, and Robert Fisk and Noam Chomsky within the film provide these kind of historical arcs and political framework for understanding various things. And Sarah and Norman, their stories are more personal within the film.
So yes, it is politically charged, and there's been talk of you taking the documentary to the USA. Have you been warned about your personal safety over there?
Not warned about my personal safety, but I've been warned to expect, personal attack, verbal attack as opposed to physical. Well, I hope it's verbal and not physical. But yes, I think there could be some of that, but I'm hoping not.
Even in New Zealand, we heard tonight at the question and answer session that there's a letter to the editor of The Listener accusing your documentary of hating Israel. So to people who haven't actually seen the documentary, how would you respond to this?
Well, I'm telling a story with this documentary, which is these 4 people, their life and work in relation to this issue. And I believe I've done it in a very considered way and been as fair and objective in presenting their positions and their life in relation to. It's done impressionistically, so of course there's a lot of my input in there. But if the writer of that letter has an issue with the ideas that these 4 characters present, I don't see that as my problem. It's and they're certainly not anti-Israel. None of them, the 4 characters in my film, are not anti-Israel, and they're certainly not anti-Semitic.
Many of the audience in the question and answer session wanted you to cover other angles on other issues relating around this subject. And what was your response to them?
Basically, I'm not the United Nations, and I think when you're making a film, you have to set parameters. And my parameters were, this is a story about these 4 people in relation to this issue. And yes, I could have made a film about Israelis in relation to this issue, or I could have made it about how Israelis and Palestinians are collaborating to try and change facts on the ground. But that wasn't what my film was about. So I think as a filmmaker you have to be very clear about what you're doing, and I believe my film is.
And where to now for Sarah Cordery, and where to now for this documentary?
The documentary, I'd like it to go to festivals overseas and hopefully have some theatrical life overseas. For me, I'm already working on a couple of projects which have been in gestation for a year, but not. They won't be based overseas. They're here, so hopefully they won't take me 10 years to bring to fruition.
How did you convince Alan Bollinger to leave the comfort of his home here to travel all the way to the Middle East?
Yeah, well, I heard that Alan doesn't like to leave the comfort of the West Coast, and so I felt very honoured that he came along with this project. But he's a great admirer of both Noam Chomsky and Robert Fisk, and so I guess that, you'll have to ask him, but I guess that was the determining factor for him. But it was a real privilege to have him along for that ride.
After the break, we'll bring you the latest weather update and some events and happenings coming up from around the region.
Hi there, Julian Toon, Waimea Telecommunications. We install and maintain domestic and commercial satellite TV, UHF Freeview and Mainland TV installations in the Nelson, Tasman regions. We specialise in Panasonic telephone systems and provide communications, Wi-Fi, IT and wiring for internet, fibre, computers and DSL systems. At Waimea Telecommunications, we also provide specialist electronic systems for features such as a security camera you can watch on your TV, visitor alert systems and much more. Improve your security and communication and entertainment today. Call us on Waimea Telecommunications on 021 472297, ytel.co.nz.
Are you looking for a scooter, walker, wheelchair, baby seats or pushchairs? Then come in and see the Nelson Region Specialist at Mobility for You, 269 Queen Street, Richmond, opposite the library. We have a huge selection of scooters, walkers, wheelchairs and accessories, along with a free booklet guide. We also provide a breakdown service if you ever get a puncture or a flat battery. We have fully equipped service vans to rescue you. Hi, I'm Robin Jordan and I invite you to call in and see the friendly team at Mobility for You, 269 Queen Street, Richmond, opposite the library.
We're the team at JCar, right here in Nelson, 120 Hardy Street. Our shop is full of electronic items,
including security alarm systems, electronic components,
solar and power,
electronics toys,
sound systems, cables and much, much more. JCar.
120 Hardy Street, Nelson.
I'm Larry London from VOA Music Mix, bringing you news on the hour from around the world, plus music 24/7, from the latest hits to those classic favorites to jazz on Saturday mornings, plus much, much more. You can contact us by Googling Mainland TV or follow us on Facebook. Cheers from the team at Mainland Radio 1 and VOA Music Mix.
Sit and Be Fit is on at the Victory Community Centre Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. at the Victory Community Church, 238 Upper Vanguard Street. School terms only. Fun while you get fitter, work at your level.
On behalf of the team here at Mainland Television News, thank you for joining us.
supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
Nelson Tire Center, great prices, great service. Buy your own Bryford trailer, all types, all sizes. See Colin Douglas for your tires and batteries.